Welcome back everyone. In the last video about Material UI, we had installed Material UI in our project and then we had set up a very basic theme using the create theme function from Material UI. In this video, we will learn about customizing this theme in great details. Let's first understand why we may want to customize the theme. In a typical React project, we have many buttons, and let's say that we want our buttons to be rounded. Now, by default, Material UI doesn't provide us rounded buttons, and in order to make them rounded, we will have to use the SX prop to customize the design. So I'm talking about this SX prop that we have seen in the previous video. But the problem is that if we want to customize the styles with the SX prop, then we will have to do it for all the buttons in the project individually. Of course, we will have many buttons in a typical project, and the process will be quite repetitive. So it's not actually optimal solution to customize the SX prop for every individual buttons. In this case, we can use this theme. We can use the theme to customize the styles of the buttons globally. So we will be handling the styles from one place. Let's visit the MUI docs to find out how we can achieve this. So inside of mui.com/materialui/customization/theming, we will find all the information necessary to customize the theme. The first thing we can see is the things that we can customize. So first we have the palette, then we have typography, spacing, breakpoints, z-index, transitions, and components. We will take a closer look at some of these things that we can customize. So let's visit the palette. If we go down below, so in a typical project, we have almost 2 to 3 colors in most cases, and we can specify those colors inside this palette. So let's say we're not using the theme, all right, and we use a certain color on everywhere inside our project, and later on we change our mind and we want to change this color. It will be almost a nightmare to make any changes at that stage. But if we do it inside the theme, as you can see here, it will be really easy to make changes because all we have to do is change the color in just one place. So again, another reason to use the theme. As we can see inside the palette, we have a primary color and we have secondary color. We can also create custom colors if we want to. So for a color to work, all we need is the main property inside of primary, but we have options for a light, main, dark, and contrast text. So I will implement this code in the project now. So inside, we already have the primary. Now we want a different color for the primary. If I go to my project, you can see that our buttons are blue at this moment, but I want a orange button. So the color will be, instead of blue, I will be using my own color. And if I save now, you'll see that my color is orange. So just because we have changed the primary color, our button, by default, our button takes the primary color, so it has also changed. Now we have the other properties that is inside the primary or the secondary color. So we have light, then we have dark as well. So you can put your color just as you want. I will just fast forward from here. So back in the code, I will provide the light, main, and the dark property. You can use your values if you want to. Now the last property that we have is the contrast text. In the button, you can see that our background of the button is orange, but the text is actually black. and we don't really like this. If we don't like this, we can customize this as well using the contrast text. So I want a white text, so the contrast text should be white. So after the dark, I will provide a white contrast text. And if I save, you'll see that the text inside the button has turned white. Now I will just fast forward and create the secondary color the same way I have done for the primary color. So back in the code, I'll just paste the secondary color and all the necessary values. We don't need this blue import anymore because we're not using this. Now if we want to, we can also create custom colors the same way they have done. So let's create a custom color called purple. So just below the secondary color, I will create a purple color, and inside of it, I will just provide the main property. Some components in Material UI can use the color prop. So if I go inside the overview, and here I will just create a button which can use the color prop. And I will call it button as well. Let's import this. So if I head over to the browser and log into the dashboard, you see that we have a button. It's not that visible because it has to have a variant of content. So by default, it's orange. But if I make the color secondary, it's going to inherit a navy blue color. And it's coming from this secondary color that we have specified inside the theme. Now, there are some ways of using these colors inside the SX prop as well. Now, let's see how we can do that. So I will just create a typography component. And I have just auto imported it. So make sure to do that. And its component will be a H2, let's say, a H2. And I will give it a SX prop. And inside of it, the color will be purple dot main, and I have to give it some text. So let's just say this is some text. I visit the browser now. You can see that it has inherited that purple color. So this typography is actually using this purple color. You can also do the same for the primary or the secondary color. So if I use the primary.main, you can see that it's orange. And if I do secondary.main, you can see that it's navy blue. Now there is another way of using this color inside the SX prop, and that is the theme object. So we have access to a hook called use theme, and that is provided by Material UI as well. So const theme equals to use theme, and we have to import it from MUI material. And what this does, this hook will give us the theme object. So I'm talking about this entire object, and it will give us this object, this entire object. So now we can use this theme to access this color. So we can either use primary, secondary, or purple, just as we desire. So theme dot, then inside of theme we have palette, and then we have primary, then we have main or secondary, main or dark, whatever. So theme dot palette dot, I'll just use the secondary color. So secondary dot main. As you can see, it is using the secondary color. And if I use the purple color, I can do that as well. So now it's using the purple color. So that is it. Now we will see how we can customize the typography. So I'll just close the palette, and inside of theming, you can see that we have the next option is typography. And inside of typography, we can specify font, the different fonts that we will be using in our project, or the base font size. The default font size is 14 pixel in Material UI. As we can see here, inside the typography, we can customize 13 variants. So there is all the 6 heading tags that we have in HTML. Then we have subtitle, subtitle 2, body 1, body 2, button, caption, and overline. So let's customize the H2 that we have just created. So I'm talking about this H2 that we have just created inside the overview. And this component prop is only controlling what component this thing will be. So if I want to give it a style, I need to provide it the variant prop. So I would want the variant to be H2 as well. And if I see, now it's a heading. So let's say I'm not satisfied with this font size. So let's make it even bigger. Inside the theme, outside of the palette, but inside of the create theme function, let's create the typography object, and inside of it we will create a H2 object, and inside I will provide the desired font size. So let's make it 50, and it's too thin to be a heading. Let's increase the font weight as well. So font weight will be 600. So as you can see, the font size has decreased and the font weight has increased. But we actually wanted the font size to increase. So I think 50 isn't doing it. Let's make it 60 and see again. So as you can see that the font size for the H2 tag has increased. So that's it. We can also customize the buttons and any of these other things that we want to. Next we have breakpoints. So by default, Material UI uses extra small, small, medium, large, and XL breakpoints. So XS or extra small starts at 0, and small starts at 600, medium starts at 900, large at 1200, and then we have XL, which starts at 1536. And these values can be customized. So let's see how we can customize it. So we need a breakpoints object, and inside of it we need a values object, and inside of this object we have to provide some values. So that's it. So I can see that this is the default values that Material UI is using. Oh, if we want to, we can customize this, and if we want to, we can also get rid of this XS, SM, MD, or LG, because this is kind of hard to understand. So we can use a friendlier names like mobile, tablet, laptop, desktop, etc. And we can provide our own values for these properties. So I will now copy this breakpoints object and paste this inside of our code. So just below the typography, I have pasted the breakpoints. Now if we want to, we can customize it to any of our desired values. Now we probably don't know how we can use these breakpoints, so let's see how to utilize these breakpoints. So I want the color of this typography to be orange on a large screen, say on a desktop or laptop, but it has to be purple on a medium screen. So let's see how we can do that. I will create a object inside of this color property, and I will say that on MD we will have theme.palette.purple.main, but on a large screen the color will be theme.palette. dot primary dot main, that is our orange color. So if I go back to the browser, you can see that on a large screen the color is orange, but if I make the browser window skinnier or narrower, that means that we're going on a small screen. So on a medium screen we can see that the text turns purple. So the breakpoint is working fine. Now we will learn how to customize the different components globally. So back in the docs, I will just visit the components, and inside the components customization, as you can see, first they have shown us how we can disable this ripple effect. So when I click on any MUI buttons, you can see that there's this wave effect. So if we don't like this, we can disable this using the default props. So first we have to specify the components object, and inside of the components object we need the name of the component, and then we need to go inside the default props, and inside we can disable the ripple effect. So let's try this in our project as well. So components, and inside of the components we have to specify the name of the component. So it will be MUI button base, and then inside of this we have default props, and inside we have to disable the ripple and we have to make it true. So if I go back to the browser and try, you can see that that wave effect is gone now. I don't really like this customization, so I will make it false again. Also, to find the name of the components, you can just inspect. So if I inspect this button, you can see that this button has a class called MUI button base, and that is the name of this component. And now it also has other names like MUI button. So just look at these class names and you will understand the name of the component. Now back in the docs. So we wanted in the beginning of the video, we wanted to make the buttons rounded. So let's do that. So we have to specify the name of the component, and inside of the style overrides, we have to provide the different style that we want. So if I inspect the component, you can see that it has some other names as well, like we've just seen, MUI button, and this is actually the root. So we have to go inside the root and we have to specify the style. So let's do this. Inside the components, just below the MUI button base, you can just use MUI button, and inside of style overrides, and inside of root, I will just give it a border radius of say 9999 pixel, and that should make all of the buttons rounded. Okay, so yeah, it is working. So if I visit the login route now, you can see that these buttons are also rounded. So we have basically changed all of the buttons in our project to rounded buttons. Now Material UI has introduced some experimental stuff that allows us to use shorthands inside of the theme. By default we cannot do it. So I will scroll below. You can see that inside of the theme they're using px, py, etc. By default we can do this, but this new unstable sx function allows us to do this. It's experimental, so it is called unstable, but in future releases I think this will be stable. but I want to show it to you anyway. And this time I will be customizing a chip component. So let's get back to the code, and inside of the overview, just below the typography, I will import a chip component from material UI. And this takes an icon. So it will be a done icon. And this also takes a label. So the label will be, this is a chip. So if I go back to the project and if I refresh, you can see that we have a chip component just below the typography component. Now we will be customizing this component. Let's go back to the theme file, and just below the MUI button, I want to write the name of the component, that is MUI chip. So if you are not sure what the name of the component is, just inspect. As you can see, the name of the component is MUI chip. So inside of the MUI chip, as you can see that we have different parts of this component. So first we have the root, and for the label, we have MUI chip label, and for the icon, as you can see, we have MUI chip icon. So these are the different parts of the component, and we have to customize them individually. I'll now close this. So first we have root. So inside of the style overrides, I will create the root, and this time, because we're using unstable SX, this has to be a function. So I'll just make it a function, and it will give us the theme. So inside of this function, I will write theme dot unstable SX, and it's a function. So inside of this function, we have to provide an object as the argument. Back in the browser, as you can see, the chip is rounded. Let's not make it rounded. Let's make it not fully round. Let's just make it a little round. So I will give it a border radius of just 1. And if I save and go back, so that didn't work for some reason. Okay, the reason is that we have to return the theme.unstableSX, but we are not returning it. So we can either write return, or in ES6, we don't have to write return explicitly. We can just get rid of these curly brackets. So that will do the same thing. And if I go back to the browser, as you can see, it's not fully rounded, it's just slightly rounded. Now we can also change the styles of the icon. So again, it's going to be a function inside of theme. And we need the theme.unstableSX. The way we can change the size of the icon is by using font size. So let's just change the font size, and let's make it 30 to make it a bit dramatic. So as you can see, the icon size has changed. We can also change the size of the label if we want to. So just below the icon, we can write label, and again, we will have to make it a function. So it should change. Yeah, it's just way too big. Let's make it 20. Okay. So that's all for component customization. I hope you could grasp the concepts clearly. Be sure to check the rest of the customization options yourself, and I think I have given you a good start. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel. and like this video as well. And if you face any kind of problem, make sure to let us know in the comment section. Also, if you are looking for React courses, feel free to visit latenightcoder.com. The link will be in the description below. That's it for this video, but in the next video, I will be showing you how we can add a light mode, dark mode toggle in our project. So stay tuned. I will see you in the next one.